You have now entered a very rare group of people in this country. You're in the ranks of Charlie Manson, Ted Bundy. You claim you didn't commit these murders, but you're right in there now as far as everybody else is concerned.
Serial killers do on a small scale what governments do on a large one. They are a product of the times, and these are bloodthirsty times. Even psychopaths have emotions if you dig deep enough, but then again, maybe they don't.
Do you have emotions, Richard?
No comment.
Tell me what kind of emotions you got going through you right now.
I'll tell you what, I gave up on love and happiness a long time ago.
Why?
I don't care to explain that. Let the quote stand for itself.
Scott, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And the reporter, he takes the tack he should take on this from the beginning. He puts him on a pedestal and says, wow, you're like all these people you used to read about as a kid. You're one of them now. And that's when he straightens up and he's coming forward and gets that head back a little bit. He's like, yeah, man, that's who I am. Because he's feeding that ego. And that's when they start lighting up. After he'd shut up for a while, he'd gotten a lot more instead of breaking in so much. But he gets excited, and you can hear him reading these things. We can see him reading them as well, looking down and then spouting them off. But you can hear the way he words things, like you were saying, Chase. You can tell that's not him. Those aren't his words. That's not natural for him. That's why it's so choppy and broken. And he's adding those what he thinks are the proper facial expressions and emotions to show. And he starts wiggling around. He's looking around, moving around a whole lot. Every time he does that, that's what he starts doing. Let's talk about his eyes for just a minute, because we were talking about the psychopathic stare earlier. What happens in this case is, and he's got this down, but he can't help it because that's what these things do, is when if I said to you, stare at me like a psychopath, you might squint your eyes and try to look mean. When they do it, it's almost the same way as when you see anger. If somebody squints their eyes at you, and you're not thinking, is this guy going to come, if you're in an interrogation thing, this guy's not going to come over the table because he's doing this. But once they squint their eyes and then you see the whites of their eyes under there, that's the look you're looking for. And that's what we see here. His eyes are squinted, but they're still getting wide. There's a lot going on in there. He's been triggered. So there's a lot, something's been fired off in there that makes that happen. And you see that as well throughout this interview. Sometimes it's normal. We'll see one where he looks almost like a normal person. But you see just little flicks of it popping up now and then, which we'll point out as we go along. But I think that's an important thing to pay attention to, is the psychopathic stare. And he looks right at him, and the blinking is usually next to nothing as they do that. In a bar, in a public setting, you've always heard about the I saw this guy, the girls will say, and I looked at him from across the room, and I felt like we had a connection, because every time they look up, he's looking at him. They don't understand that if you keep looking at somebody, that's weird and that's strange. They don't get that same feeling we get. With you guys, if we were sitting somewhere and I kept looking at you, that would be weird. If I didn't look away or talk about, do something, it would be odd. But they don't feel that feeling. They have no ability to feel feelings because their amygdala are either gone, they're not there, they're damaged, or there's just something wrong with them. Or there's just nothing in there.
Yeah, so absolutely agree with everything there. He smiles there, true Duchenne smile at the status raise that he gets. The interviewer also uses Charlie Manson instead of Charles Manson. I think he's trying to add some kind of friendly association there. Charlie, my mate, you're like Charlie, my mate, aren't you?
You're in the ranks of Charlie Manson.
So, bit odd there, trying to win friendship there. But I think that's what he's trying to do. I think we see Jupiter's delight as well on, do you have emotions? Well, every psychopath has feelings if you dig a bit into it, and then again, maybe not. I think he quite enjoys that play that he does there and enjoys what he thinks is a brilliant dupe. It's not that brilliant, but he likes it. And we see the asymmetry in the face there of Jupiter's delight, one side of the face doing something very different from the other. It's very prolonged in this case. Often Jupiter's delight is very, very quick. It's super prolonged because he doesn't have to hide anything at this point. What's he got to hide? Other than he's not saying specific things because of his appeal, essentially. Now, what's interesting for me, I think most of all is this idea of he gave up love and happiness a long time ago. He's already painting himself as a victim. He's already started this process of saying, I've given up on love, I've lost that, painting himself as a victim of circumstances. And we get this heavy breath, this heavy breathe out, and we'll see it later on as well, when he talks about government.
Serial killers do on a small scale what governments do on a large one. They are a product of the times, and these are bloodthirsty times.
So he's already setting up this idea of external factors being responsible. But his idea up front is that these murders are not his responsibility. They're already the responsibility of some external factor. So keep that in mind as we go along, and he's painting himself as the victim here and the victim of external factors.
Yeah. And I agree with you guys, especially you, Mark, that one of the key things we see running through this is it's not his fault. And with a psychopath or a narcissist, a hardcore clinical narcissist, it's never their fault either. Never. What they're trying to do is show you as they go through this. He's trying to be what you are. That's why you heard matching and mirroring. As you see that happening, he tries to do that from the word go and tries to take on your personality type. Doesn't have one, so it's easier. He's practiced at it, can do that fairly easily when meeting people and those types of things. One thing a phrase I came up with was, when you're dealing with psychopaths, you're not looking for a sheep in wolf's clothing. You're looking for a sheep in your clothing.
It's a great.
That's really important to pay attention to, because they're trying to be like you. And when they're trying to be like you too much, say if you see that stare from too far apart and they show up and you feel all of a sudden you feel like you've met this kindred spirit and everything's cool, heads up. Not all the time, every time, but quite often that could be a real problem for you.
If you like this video, get the full body language breakdown and analysis on our main channel by clicking this video right here.